And so I anticipate us probably for most of the summer not being able to send out any inmate work crews.
Well, Judge, I know you get complaints in your office. That's just something that I guess we're going to have to weather. 'Cause I got complaint yesterday, so I was just kind of wanting to know what the status. So you're predicting maybe a month to 2 months before the inmates can get out?
Yeah, it would be my opinion that probably by the end of summer, so maybe the end of July, the beginning of August, we'll be sending inmates back out.
How is that going to affect the road department as far as, I mean, that's going to put an increased burden on them, I would assume, as far as weed eating and mowing and.
I would think so with the road department, the state highway department, Georgetown Public Works, Scott County Park and Recreation. I know I've gotten several calls from a couple of those entities just checking back in with me. Hey, does it look like a change is going to occur where we can get some help from you guys anytime soon? And I've told them the same information that.
Parks and Recreation as well?
Yes. Yeah.
Gerald, would you like to comment on that at all?
Yeah, he's a great help to us. When we have issues, we're managing to get by until he frees everybody up and gets back out, so.
Appreciate it. Anyone have any other questions or comments related to the proposed document, and is there a motion to accept? Motion from Alvin Lyons, a second from David Livingston. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Emergency repair update, Hinton Sadieville Road. J.R. Brandenburg, could you share some information? We're not asking for any action. We just wanted the court to be aware of an emergency repair situation and how J.R.'s, as usual, handling it and taking care of us. Appreciate it, J.R.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Sunday, May the 24th, I received a call that road had broke away and given away along the creek at Hinton Sadieville Road, about a half a mile from the boat ramp. And went down there, and about a foot and a half of the road had gave way into the creek, which is real close for a stretch of 300 or 400 foot down through there. And we went down, coned it off, put barrels up, and guardrails just hanging in there where it slipped into the creek with all the recent flooding over the years. And what we did was contact the judge, talk to him and everything. We went on the upper side of the road and cut about 2 foot out of the bank and widened that area, but it's got to be stabilized, and it's going to be quite a job of doing it. And while we were at it, we looked at about 240 foot of road along the creek bank and contacted 2 different people, Hinkle Environmental Services, which worked on the railroad slide at the railroad at Hinton Road, and they did a wonderful job up there. And they came down, met with me. They gave me an estimate of $120,955. The other people, Guardian Retention Walls, has not given me an estimate, even though they went down and looked at it. And going to have to drill holes along the creek bank, install pylons. Railroad rail is actually what it is. Got to go down to bedrock. Then they fill all that in, and that's what's going on. This is considered an emergency repair, and I got a hold of the state. They suggested that I wait till after July the 1st to apply for this, where they got a new pool of money when the new budget starts. And we'd like to go ahead and get this scheduled if possible and get it on the books, because everybody's busy, and this don't have to be bid out since it's an emergency repair. Of course, y'all are aware of that.
And I don't think we need to take action, but we would be happy to entertain, motion to authorize us to move forward with an emergency repair. I'm glad to hear that we can navigate after July 1 possible partnership with the state on some funding. Yes, sir.
Have you received any notification? Because I read an article last night that they're reassessing road plan due to?
I've not received anything
Okay, well,
additional.
we might want to find out about that, because the revenues have shrunk tremendously.
Yeah. I will inquire. But in regards to this, you know, you got a significant chunk of the road that's gone, and you got dangling guardrail. I don't know if y'all have had time to remove that yet, but probably haven't. That'll probably be part of the repair.
Yeah, I
Um,
wouldn't
you
want
wouldn't
to
remove
remove
it
it
all,
at this
would you?
time.
Yeah. But we need to move forward with it.
Motion,
Look,
or you want a motion?
yeah,
I'll
listen,
make a motion.
I mean, that's probably wise.
We don't have just move forward because you don't have that second price, right? I mean, we're
Yeah.
not voting on the price.
Yeah. Just authorizing to move forward to complete
Sure.
repairs. A motion from David Livingston, second from Mr. Hostetler. Any other comments? All those in favor?
Well, it's not, one quick comment, I did talk to Kelly Baker yesterday, it was over another issue, but we got to talking in general, it kind of goes along with what David said, and that they have done some surveys all across the Commonwealth, and they said that travel was down in the Commonwealth through this period 40% is what they estimated, so that's why the numbers are so great. It's talking about, you know, people not putting gas in their car because they're not traveling as much.
My truck's getting 2 months to the gallon.
Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, but I thought, personally, I kind of thought that was a shocking number, but he said that's kind of, they have the ability to do that. They've done that statewide. It's about 40% decline over the last couple of months in travel. So there's where the gas tax is gone. It's not, you know, people aren't buying it.
So we had a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you all. JR, anything else? All right.
This is something that's kind of critical. It is
no.
a dangerous area,
No.
and the creek's right
No,
below
we
you and
wanna-
everything. And if
we-
worse comes to worse, I know the funds has been cut back. We do have the money and been judged.
We'll
on that.
navigate it.
Yeah.
So,
Thank y'all very much.
thank you all. Next item is something that we've been working on quite a long time, and consideration of a proposal from either the Shepherd's House or Isaiah House. And I appreciate everybody's work on this, and we've listened to presentations, we've made site visits, we've made phone calls, and you know, both of these programs offer quality programs of quality care. And the day reporting program, intense outpatient program, whatever you want to, you know, either label you want to put on it, I think is a needed program in our community, and the option that we'd be giving our judges and such would be a big plus to help people that are battling addiction and have found themselves in the court system. We've talked about it, we've looked at it, we've done site visits, as we said. I shared, you know, both of the proposals again with you all earlier this week. And, you know, I don't want to make, you know, I want to be definitely want to be a good steward of the tax dollars. And, you know, I believe both of these programs, you know, serving individuals, providing the services, the counseling, and all the different items, the overall good that this will do compared to just having someone serve a sentence and then go back out and then possibly reoffend or be right back in the same place again. You know, we're going to have a significant physical savings, but it's a life savings as well, I think. And some information that's been shared with me in the last week from Brandon Rumley and from our coroner, John Goebel. You know, there's been a surge in overdose deaths, and the situation's not going away. And I think this is something that could help individuals and be a big influence in our community to get people out of that cycle and back into working and being productive members of our society. You know, the two proposals, both are they mirror each other pretty much. There's a few differences. Shepherd's House proposal, basically, if, comes out to, you've got up to 20 individuals in the program per month. It's 11,000. If you go over 20, between 20 and 40, it's 18,000 a month. The Isaiah House program is a little bit different. They have requested some upfront costs of approximately $13,714. And then, from what I could tell and calculate, their first 6 months of the program would cost approximately about, if you had 1 to 20, would cost about $128,000. The second 6 months would be about $117,000. And then in that same descriptor, they shared that once they get everything accredited, and I think it's after 6 months, basically for $19,500 per month, they will take as many individuals as the program can hold. It'd be at 40 plus, I'm sure. So that would be about $234,000. Now, one other piece
How
is
much was Shepherd's House up to 20?
up to 20. Theirs was basically $11,000 a month, and then looking at the Isaiah House, 1 to 25% participants would be $21,340. And then 26 plus participants would be $23,840. Now, what it says here, it says once the credentialing is complete with all managed care organizations, Isaiah House will reduce the monthly reimbursement to $19,500, regardless of the number of court participants. Now, the Isaiah House did offer a reimbursement option 2, that was a little bit less of an expense, but their program director would not be on site full time. I just don't think that's a good option. I would not recommend that. And then the other piece of information, I've scouted and looked and identified 2 locations. One was across from Southern States in an area there that used to be a urgent care clinic, and then another location that we identified is the Fairs building, which is next to the Salvation Army building that's up Washington Square area. Now, both of those owners have indicated that they would be willing to negotiate a lease with either Isaiah House or Shepherd's House. One building that's at the Washington Square site would be $5,000 a month, and then the building that's across from Southern States there in that area would be $4,000 a month. Part of the after visiting the site, Isaiah House recently shared with me that they would prefer the site at Washington Square, and that they liked it so much that they would offer to pay $2,500 a month towards that lease. So that is another piece of information that, and it's my opinion that once we enter into this and decide which program we want to go with, that the cost for the lease will be paid to either Isaiah House or Shepherd's House, and then those organizations can sign a lease with the owner. The fiscal court will not sign that lease. That's my 2 cents on that. Yes, sir.
Owned properly to have residents,
They're not residents, it's just a day reporting
just
program.
a day reporting.
Yeah, there's no overnight. They'll be there from 8 a.m. till in the evening, but nothing overnight. So,
Staff overnight, nobody.
nobody's overnight.
So there's no structure change within the interior or anything that needs to be done?
Yes, at both sites, both groups have talked to the owners about installing walls to make meeting rooms a little smaller, and both owners said that would be something they could navigate.
So if it's just a day reporting center, how do we anticipate folks getting there? Just because of the fact when I think of someone who may be,
I believe from my site visits, and Chad, you help me, and Rick, you help me, they'll go pick them up if they don't have transportation.
That's my understanding.
There's also
That's-
buses nowadays, you know,
I think that question was asked in one of our meetings, and I think that's what they
Is it running?
responded.
well, I see it in town quite a bit.
they are running? Okay.
David and Rand confirmed that in meetings we had with both groups, they'll go pick them up. And Isaiah House actually has a van that they use to help transport people to work as well. That's
It was at Isaiah House, Dennis is working on that van.
with Toyota Two Show.
They're working with somebody already taking employees.
Yeah.
Right, so, and that van is theirs, I think, Isaiah House's.
So on a side note as well, and it really doesn't have any bearing on which way we go, because regardless of which way we go, this organization wants to partner with us. And it's the Kentucky, Jared, could you help me with the acronym?
Yeah, it's the Kentucky Agency for Substance Abuse Policy, and there's a local Scott County chapter, and I'm on that board, and I know the board has been wanting a project like this for many years to help, and the board is willing to commit $1,500 a month for grant assistance.
So that would go towards the program cost, which is, I think, a very nice gesture.
My other question is looking at both of these, I don't see any kind of cancellation provision. I may have overlooked it, of the agreement.
Rand,
I don't recall, but if there's not, David, you're right, we need to
before we enter
install one.
It'd
into,
be like a yearly review type of.
Yeah, but in probably a provision that you could terminate on, 30, maybe 60 days notice, something like that.
Well, it'd be kind of depending on the lease, right? So whatever the lease says, the program probably would need to.
Both-
If it's a 60-day notification, we need it.
and here's my,
As well.
my hope is, that we have the funds and the thing goes well the first year and we can continue into the second year. Unless something just becomes a disaster, I really don't think we can judge a program's effectiveness after 1 year, unless it's, I would hope that we could at least look at it on a 2-year basis. And then just another piece, both owners of both sites would want a 24-month lease. They would agree to that. They wanted longer, but I could not, I told them, I said,
If it's empty,
yeah. But looking on, I have a contract here from the Shepherd's House. It's a formal, we'll have to, Rand and I have to look at that, David. That's a good question about terms of cancellation.
I think if you're inclined to approve one of these, we can make it with the contingency that, termination provision is added.
And then here's another piece that we've talked about. Our jail, we do not have the space, and Jeller Broyles was sitting here, and Jeller, I would invite you to please comment as well if you want, but we don't have the space to offer the state substance abuse program. We don't have the space. In conversations with Judge Deals from Grant County, they are running a program from their facility. They have extra beds, and they want more people in their program, and that is a option that would exist. And the Shepherd's House is running that program for the Grant County Detention Center. If an individual qualified for that program, then our jail staff would help do an assessment, and then we would transfer that individual to the Grant County program that's being ran by the Shepherd's House. once that happens, from what I've been gathered and what I can determine, is that Scott County would realize no cost for those individuals while they're in that program in Grant County. Jailer Broyles, is that correct on what you would understand? State substance abuse program, if an inmate is in that program, the state pays for that program.
Yeah, that's correct. It's my understanding, I haven't been involved in the discussions and I haven't looked into it, but it's my understanding state inmates, is that correct? State classified, or is that any
No,
inmate?
I was told a county inmate
Okay, and that's,
that would qualify for the program.
okay.
That was what I was told,
I
so.
think that's correct. That's what Judge Steele
And you were
said.
part of that conversation as
Yeah.
well. And,
And as long as they're at their facility, the state, that's what we were told.
that's what we were told,
Conversation.
so.
What kind of liability do we have if something happens to them in that facility?
At the Grant County, I'd have to,
You have to run it by KCO probably, I think, see what they said.
Can would be the same question as if we got a Franklin County inmate in our Scott County jail, what kind of liability
Amen.
do we
Right.
have?
You're
We
exact.
have it, it's our liability.
It's our liability.
Point well taken.
So if they're going to Grant County, it's, unless there are medical conditions that we know of that we don't inform them of, or certain special situations that cause an issue
but
So
am
by-
I correct? This is completely volunteer, like, if a person, says they're interested in this program and they go through the assessment and they qualify, it's a voluntary program that they could choose to go to.
That's correct.
And they'd
yeah.
work with their counsel as well, right, Rand,
Yeah.
to make a recommendation to the judge to be part of that program.
Right.
Bill?
Would it be possible to get I read both proposals, would it be possible to get a breakdown, side-by-side comparison about how much each one wants, and what the charges are, and where we get grants and where we get reimbursements, so we can come up with a in-case dollar figure?
Well, I can tell you that. I can do that for you. And, if it's between 1 and 20 a month, then it's, the Shepherd's House is gonna be, 11,000 a month. If it's 25 plus or 20 plus,
21 through 40 for the Shepherd House is 18,000.
yeah, it's 21 through 40, it's
that, not
18,000.
18 additional, a total of 18.
Right, a total of 18,000.
And
So,
then clients 41 through 60 for the Shepherd's House is 25,000 total a month.
yeah.
Plus the lease.
Plus the lease. So,
I was just looking for a dollar-by-dollar comparison of each one, and what grants we get, and who's gonna
There's-
reimburse us, and then let's put Grant County in
There's-
there next to it.
there's no, you need to leave at Grant. The Grant County just part is, the Shepherd's House is gonna run that state substance abuse program. They're running it now. And what I have been told could happen is an individual that wants to go into that program and meets the assessment would then, after they completed that program, transition back to Scott County to the day reporting program to essentially get the extra help and extra time to help get a job and keep, because quite often when somebody gets out of jail, they fall right back into the same issues that they battle. So this day reporting program would kind of almost transition them back to life, with giving them the option of being able to help get a job, continue counseling and such.
Joe, just so I'm clear, if we choose Isaiah House, there's nothing those same inmates are still gonna be eligible for the Grant County issue.
They would be.
We just feel like it probably would be smoother transition if you've got Shepherd's House, because it's got, they're there and then they work back in the
And
same
that
program.
crossed my mind that, they're running and they'd be having a relationship with their staff. But
It's
I don't
not-
think you have
not
to.
tied into.
No,
it
it's
doesn't have
not
to be
tied
one.
together.
Okay.
And it wouldn't actually be the same staff, but it's the same.
And you're right, Rick, it probably would not even be the same staff.
I doubt it could be, because those folks would be up in Grant County working there.
Yeah.
We're
Bill,
gonna
I
have
tried to do that, and you actually can't.
It's hard. I've tried
Because the terms
myself.
aren't the same.
Yeah, it's,
It goes, it's not apples to apples.
what I figured, Bill, was the Shepherd's House, the max, if, like, I don't think we should go over 40 this first year. So let's just say we had 40 in there for the whole year. It cost us $276.
Plus the lease.
No, that's with the
That's with
lease.
the lease.
What if we went up to 20? What would that cost?
If we just went to 20, it'd be 132,000.
Almost half.
Plus the lease.
Yeah.
And that might be, hey, if you want to start that way and say, hey, we're gonna serve a maximum of 20 people a month for the first year, you could choose to do that if you wanted. But that would be 132,000 plus the lease. Now with the Isaiah House, it's a little bit. You still have the 13,700 up front, and then they're saying after 6 months that it doesn't matter how many, they're going to do 19.5 a month. Is that what you read? You all? That's what I
What's
read.
that total?
That's you said the number 20, it's a rolling 20, right?
It's a rolling 20.
Yeah.
So like if somebody transitions out,
Then
they pick
somebody
up
else
some.
got
They
it.
have an opening and.
Yeah.
So reading from the Isaiah House, it's monthly reimbursement 1 to 25, 21,340, and then 26 plus is 23,840 a month. But they say after the credentialing is over in the first 6 months, they say monthly reimbursement is 19.5, regardless of the number of court participants receiving services. 19.5. So,
Judge, my recommendation would be, I agree with what Kelly's saying, is if, to start this out for the first year, that we don't go over the 20, I would call it the rolling 20 maximum as far as the program. As well as thinking about our financial future, there's still some questions, that might be a better approach to go on that route.
is that what you feel like, Kelly?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Revalue it the first year, and that termination clause, I hadn't thought about that, but I think that's a really important thing to consider, because if, God forbid, they do something that's, we want to disassociate ourselves with them, we need to have a way to do that, and I'm not sure how that works with, I guess they sign the lease and they take the chance. But we all know things could happen that could be very unpopular, that we may not want to participate any longer, and I don't think we want to be hung up for a year or two without being able to get out of it.
My guess is if they're gonna have to sign a 2-year lease, the termination provision probably would have to be for cause, we couldn't just
Right,
do it.
that's what I
'cause-
was
Sure,
thinking. If
right.
that's something-
But we could certainly,
And I wouldn't be opposed to saying if something did happen and you guys left one of these buildings, that we could just use the temporary space until that lease is up for a year or two, if the county needs it, to help soften their blow of going into an agreement thinking, well, if they cancel after 3 months, we're on a 2-year lease.
yeah.
It looks like Shepherd's House is much cheaper, even with the,
Shepherd's House, if
if I did the math.
if you limit it to 20, then you know that it's 11,000 a month for 12 months plus the lease at Shepherd's House. The Isaiah House, if you limited it to 20,
25.
to 20, they would be 25. It looks like to me that it's 21,340
Times 6. and
times
then
6, and then 19.5 times 6. That's a considerable difference. Yes, sir.
The financial part is important, but I think that what I want to rely on is you all that did the site visit, and you all that have been, I know Ricky's been involved in this for, longer than fiscal court. Yeah, so from what I want to look at, because there's not a ton of difference between the two, is your all's recommendation from a site visit and knowing these folks and the services they provide, and then on the back end, how does it look financially?
Well, I don't have to comment on that. I kind of went back way up to Bill. It was tough even for me trying to do apples to apples. And then as we've had this discussion, just because of the world I live in when we bid projects, we get a bid package, we got everybody that's bidding, it's got the same information. And so what we're talking about here kind of changes what these folks bid on, which makes it a little tough because we didn't give them these kind of guidelines, which are actually good points about how long's the lease, or is there a termination clause, and one guy's looking at 1 to 25 and the other one's looking at 1 to 20, and it's kind of hard apples to apples.
I'm looking for a per head cost. I'm gonna assume that Isaiah House and Shepherd's House both have the same output. They bring people in, they get them cured, they get them unhooked, and they try to transition them back into society.
Well,
So I'm gonna assume they both have a good success rate. I want to know a per head cost.
right, and they've got a little bit of that, both of them trying to break it down.
That we show out for.
Right. I agree with you. I agree with
So
you.
let me ask you this. We don't need to put an artificial pressure on ourselves. We can come back here on June 12th. I can ask them both, if we want to limit the program to a rolling 20, does that change their proposal? Or if you want to say, hey, let's a rolling 25. Let's say 25, and have that as a
We kind of need to be able to give them the same thing.
apples to apples, kind of like what Bill's saying.
Does Shepherd's House do they have 20 for a reason though? Is there some sort of limitation for them?
Both programs mentioned in their proposal that they would have 6 staff members, like a program director, office manager, peer support specialists. So here's my proposal. Let me go back to them and say, we would like to propose for a year, the first year, that we have a rolling 25 per month of who we would, and can you give us a price for that? And does that change anything about your proposal? Does that sound like a thing? And then come back on the 12th? And then you point your finger.
And then what I would do, I ask the jailer, how many people does he think are gonna enroll in this?
That's what I don't know, how many do we have that will qualify?
We're planning for 25, and maybe we get 6.
I think definitely it's a good idea and a good program. I think it would be beneficial, but without looking at the criteria or knowing the assessment criteria, I don't know how many would participate in the program.
And do we pay?
We might throw out $240,000 for 4 people.
Right.
Well, that's what, are we paying per head or are we paying 25 no matter what?
No, we're paying like,
So for 6, do we?
like no matter what, it's 1 through 20 with the Shepherd's House. What they've told, you're paying
for 20.
$11,000 a month.
No matter what.
1
No matter
through
if you got
20.
6 or if you got 20.
Right.
And from what Jared Thomas explained, that when he came, they're going to be in the courtroom.
Yeah.
They're listening.
Every Monday.
Every Monday, they're there. And the same thing for the Isaiah House. They're going to be there trying to identify, and then they'll go to the jail, and you can fill out an application
We're
for it.
also going to work with the court system.
No, they'll be in the courtrum every Monday.
Right, but I mean, the judges are going to have impact on
Right.
as well, I think.
And just to let everybody know, I was on a Zoom with our circuit judges and our district judges yesterday, and I shared, they've been involved in, they listened to the presentations, not all of them, but they were involved yesterday with the part of the discussion, and I let them know that we were considering this today, and that, I hope that they would consider it as a tool, and we had good positive feedback. I think it'll be something that they look at as, you all, what Brandon Rimley and the coroner shared is, our overdoses are about double of what they normally been, and this is, I think, something that we need to do. But I agree. I think the best route is to go back to them and say, let's say one, a rolling number of 1 to 25 and cap it out at 25 a month for the first year. Let's get our feet wet and see how it works, and then give us a price per apples to apples.
And one of the things that when Kelly Kearney went with us to visit Shepherd's house, one of the things she shared with us was, in the event that that number is over 25, someone who's in drug court or in trouble for drugs and wants help, and Corinne, correct me if I'm wrong, they can ask to go into a private program, correct? And they can pay for it themselves.
I believe
So
that's
if the number's at 25 and guy number 26 or girl number 26 wants to go into it, the judge can say, yes, you can go and follow the same kind of program, but it's something that you would have to privately pay for and go that direction. And so the number is it's not limiting the people who really want to get help.
Right. And I asked a question today, and we were just talking, what if somebody that's in our community and doesn't have resources, but is battling addiction, and they just showed up at the doorstep of this facility, and said, hey, I need help. Well, in my mind, that's a question that court needs to, I would say we can't turn away anybody that wants some help, and hopefully the program could get them the appropriate level of help and work with them. It's just because they've been in the court system and have addiction, how could we not help this other person?
We've got places all over Central Kentucky. Recovery Works is one of them.
Yeah.
They can walk up to, knock on the door. Georgetown City Police have an angel program. You knock on the door down there, they'll drive you over.
But to Joe Pat's point, or Judge's point, I'd say that, if we've got 15 people in the program that we're paying up to 20, and somebody wants to come in, why couldn't we make that happen?
No, I couldn't turn somebody away that was battling.
What do you do a week later when 5 more pop up out of the jail?
Well, we'll tell them it's a temporary situation.
But we get to
Court ordered
25,
people
it's
to get
capped
first.
off. And just because somebody's in the court system, I don't think we could turn away somebody, in my mind, if we had the spot. And they legitimately were in a situation that the program could help them. Rick?
I was going to kind of go to part two of David's question. I did not get the opportunity to go to the Shepherd's house, which I really regret. I tried to work that out and I couldn't. Because it does make a difference, I think. I think that's what you're alluding to when you get to go put your hands and eyes on something and see what's going on. So I'll ask a question, because I know you got to go, I think you said, and I know you did, Judge, and some others. With the Shepherd's house, what they do, is that still a day reporting program there?
Yes.
So when we went to the Isaiah house, so in other words, they don't have any overnight folks at the Shepherd's house?
Not in Boyle County. Now, they have residential facility in Lexington, Shepherd's House does. But where we went in Boyle County is just apples to apples, the same as what we saw in Willisburg. Well, in little Nelson County town that we went to. I know that the Isaiah house blends their residential and day reporting.
They're able to do the same thing for day reporting, they just don't stay all night.
Right.
As they're doing with their residents that
Right.
do stay.
But
And that's what I was gonna say, so I have been to the Isaiah house,
And-
the judge and I got to go.
Yeah.
a month
And
or
it's
something
very,
ago.
wow, very impressive. Like, it's very hard for me to say, hey, I like this program better than this program. They've got great caring people, both of them do. They like what Bill said, the outcomes are gonna be very similar. The Shepherd's House, Judge Hunt, Boyle County Judge Executive, he was part of our visit. I take his reference very strong. Like, he was, like, just nothing but positive. And this is a man that's, in a position working with fiscal court, and their outcomes for Danville, Boyle County have been he had nothing but positives. Chad, would you like to comment?
That's Shepherd.
That's Shepherd's House.
Yeah. When Judge Hunt formerly military, didn't have a military background, and he was, very adamant about the success rate they've had in Boyle County.
Well, one of the questions that you and I asked right before we left the folks at the Isaiah House, because we went and visited two of their facilities. The first one, the original Isaiah House, is in Lewisburg, and they have, what did they tell us, 100, I forget the number. It's over 100 that they have there now, and most of those folks are in a 3 to 6 month program. But one of the questions we asked is what would happen if, in our program up here, whatever it looks like, if they're coming out of our program but they still need help, or it probably could apply to some of the folks that you're saying a potential show up at the door and want help. The Isaiah House said we're set up, the way he answered the question was, we're set up, we can take those folks and bring them right down here, and it wouldn't be a cost to our county. If I understood them right, they have another path, they'll go through Medicare or personal insurance if they have it or whatever, but they do that on a daily basis. Now, that's why I asked about the Shepherd's House, because I didn't realize, I thought they had an overnight facility, but that's in Lexington. You all didn't see that. What we saw was two pretty big operations.
No, they have the Isaiah House, very impressive program at a residential facility in Willisburg, welding shop.
They're teaching people and putting them to work, and it's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But the Shepherd's House, I don't know, they may have very similar possibilities at their place in Lexington. I don't know that answer.
So are y'all comfortable with essentially tabling this, and I'll get the information, 0 to 25 per month for the first year, and then go from there? Is that fair? All right. Any other questions, comments, or anything else you want me to?
And then in the process, we could be looking at
terms of contract, what David mentioned. And then number 9, Jeff Mudrack, could you address the court and share requests for human resources college intern position like we had last summer?
Sure. Thank you, Judge. Yes, I'm pleased to recommend the appointment of Catherine Lewis as our intern for this summer. She'll be working on a part-time basis, anticipating the start date would be next Tuesday, June 9th at 8:50 an hour. She's pursuing her bachelor's degree in finance and administration, and she's entering her junior year, and right now, well, most recently, she was working in the president's office at the University of Louisville, so I think she'd be a great asset. Yes.
She's a Scott
Is that a motion to deny?
She's a Scott County Cardinal as well, and the quality.
She started out a good card.
Yeah. Now, did we pay last year's $8.50 an hour?
Yes,
last
it'd be the
summer?
same pay rate, yes.
Yes, sir.
Motion for the good Cardinal.
All right. Is there a second for Mr. Wallace? Any other questions? All those in favor, aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Could I have a motion to, someone that would like to cancel the June 5th workshop? Motion from Mr. Burke. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Kelly Corman. All those in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Second. Quick draw. Second for Mr. Hostetler. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We adjourn. Thank you.